Hey everybody, this is Eric.
I'm Daryl.
Welcome to the Automotive Podcast that will not be merging with Honda, Nissan, and Mitsubishi.
On this episode of Throwing Wrenches,
Alpha or Zora, which will you decide?
Tesla fire sale? Oh, too soon?
Too soon.
Too soon.
BYD, it's not a track from the Thriller album, it's an EV in hot water. BYD. BYD. Oh, sorry.
All that and more on this episode of Throwing Wrenches.
Here he comes.
I'm going to just say it now. I'm not qualified to be operating those buttons, Daryl.
No, it's been a while.
Been a while.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wait for that.
Yeah.
You just need to put like stickers on them.
We do.
Let's see what.
Yes, this amazing mixer that was a gift from our Patreon members.
Yes,
we need to maybe push pins in the rubber buttons.
that would be perfect.
That'd be nice. Maybe with the butterfly like stuck through them or something like that. So,
Yeah.
it'd be like a school project.
Well, the issue is you can label them, but you can't look at the labels and monitor your VU meters and look at the timer at the same time.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't know,
Man,
bogus.
just it wasn't good enough.
First world problems.
You're right.
Yeah.
All right. So, hey, everybody, if you don't know, this is Throwing Wrenches Podcast. Thanks again for joining us. This is episode 96, Daryl Scott.
Wow.
Holy smokes, man. The mixer we're talking about here is part of the gifts that we get from the Patreon members, the iTunes Premium members. We always want to mention those guys first in the beginning of the show.
Absolutely.
They are the grease on the wheels, per se. They keep the can you put a grease on the rails analogy with keeping the ship afloat?
Sort of. I don't know. I don't think you should put grease on the rails, though.
No?
The wheels? I don't know. What do they put on greasy?
You put grease. I put grease. Anyway.
Squeaky wheel gets the
Yeah, exactly.
worm? I don't know.
Exactly.
Whatever colloquialism is.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Everybody, as I always say, to join the fun of the show, send us some comments. I had read some reviews in the last episode, and we had some great ones. I forgot to put the comments in the last Spotify episode. And I put a poll out there now. So if you get a chance to listen to that Christmas show we just had with Dustin, but please leave a comment if you get a chance, and I'll read that so you'll be heard all around the world.
How about that?
Yeah, so we have no comments or polls on this episode. Sorry about that. Hey, do you know Daryl Scott? Have you ever met Daryl Scott?
Oh, boy. Here
Do
comes.
you know the man, the myth, the legend? He may have shut down the Auto Museum in North Peoria for the winter, but the curation never stops. What will be on display in the spring? Will it be domestics? Will he show off his imports? It better be good if he wants that 5-star Google review from this reviewer. That's Daryl Scott.
Wow. I got a lot to live up to.
Oh,
That's scary.
sorry.
I do take my social media seriously.
No.
My online reputation. Well, and see? It's funny.
I thought that was golf clap.
I know. It might have been in a previous iteration.
I'm pushing the mixer to your way. I'm sorry.
No, I like what you're doing with it. It's fine.
Thanks.
For those who don't know our sound operator tonight, he's a man of many manners, etiquettes, distinguished tastes. You know, whenever he dines, he orders the most exquisite entrees and aperitifs. He always orders dessert, too. So even with this legacy of fine dining, he still manages to somehow always get served last. He's the last man standing at the salad bar. He's Eric Stahl.
And
So a sound effect for that?
Let's just see what happens here.
No, that's the theme music. That's fine.
All right.
That
Well,
works.
whatever.
You know what? We had a lovely dinner. Was it last week?
Yeah, I didn't get the salad bar because I gave it to my wife because she got the special.
Oh,
then she
that's
gave me that
right.
look. She's
That's
like, "Well, we
right.
could both do it. They won't know." And I'm like, "I'm not doing that. I'm not breaking the rules."
Salad bar. What if there's a security guard that just like shoots at you? You know?
No soup for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One trip salad bar.
So I let my wife have my salad bar because she got the special, which didn't come with salad bar, and I still stole off her plate.
Why did the special not come?
That
with a
doesn't make any
salad
sense,
bar?
does it?
No, that's my one pet peeve. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
You don't get salad bar. What?
All right, what's it for an add-on? $6,000.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Which
Food was good.
Yeah, no. So this Daryl's referring to dinner. We had dinner with Schmuck. Or I mean, dinner with
Andre?
Jake.
No, we had a lovely dinner in a beautiful small town Italian restaurant, which we thought would be a good fit for you.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you guys thinking of me. Everybody's like, oh, Eric can't go to the Italian restaurant because he'll be too critical because he just went to Italy. But that is not how I operate, okay?
No.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
What'd you get?
I got the veal scallopini.
That's very classico, autentico.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Do you have veal over there?
Angela's... no, no, as a matter of fact, because I just want carbonara. I literally do the carbonara
You just want,
thing.
like, homemade pasta.
Yeah, I know we're not going to go through these waters again, but
that's fine.
I keep it simple. When you go to Rome, you eat the classic dishes. So when you go to Delavan, you eat I had PBR in Delavan as a Delavanite would, right?
Yeah. No, it was good. $3 for a tall boy. You can't beat that.
No, that was definitely... I didn't have to worry about the salad bar after a couple of those.
No.
All right. Our sponsors, they love these conversations that lead right up to them. Ford's Toyota Pekin. They've been doing business for over 70 years in Pekin, Illinois. You can find them on the web at www.toyota-pekin.com. I talked to Mr. Ford the other day, and he said people don't care about 70 years in business. But I contend people do care about relationships with friendly people that they've known for years. So you may not have known anybody at Ford Toyota for 70 years, but you may have known people like myself who've been there for 25 years, or Chris Duran, or Scott in sales has been there 10 years, or Kevin Carrington's been there 15 years. Lots of people have been around that store for a long time. That's a testament to the dealership and to the industry in Pekin itself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you want a friendly local dealership, check out Ford's Toyota Pekin. They got all their inventory online. They got lots of pictures. You can certainly stop by our service department if you need anything for your Toyota or your Lexus vehicle. And again, find them on the web or at all the social medias to @Ford's Toyota. Again, www.toyota-pekin.com. Got to get that dash in there.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And also, again, just another reminder, our Patreon folks and iTunes Premium folks really do help us out. So thank you for your support, and we look forward to serving you more here in the year ahead. It's a brand new year, and we got some tricks up our sleeves.
Patreon members got some goodies at Christmas this year.
Yeah, they did.
Santa Claus came down and dropped some gear, so it was all good.
Yeah, we do appreciate that. All right, so we're going to just kind of move through this here. It's winter in the Midwest. We just kind of talked a little bit like...
We apologize every year.
There's not much going on, right? In terms of projects, we're not out in the garage turning wrenches. We're not really fixing a whole bunch of stuff. Maybe tooling around the house and doing a little housekeeping and, putting Christmas decorations away. But Eric, are you working on anything at the moment, car related or house related?
No, as a matter of fact, we had an offline conversation about a week ago, and I talked about maybe working on my garage. Mm-hmm. So we have an attached garage in the house. The previous homeowner detached it, and they sided and window, everything matches, everything looks nice. But when they finished it, they just did drywall, and then they literally slopped
the compound or whatever?
The compound over every screw and every nail, and then left it unfinished. And so we've been in this house for 12 years. And I'm like, this is a project. I can just turn the propane heater on in the garage, sand it down, and then paint and trim out the windows, stuff like that. So I said that. Of course, Angela now looks at me like I'm a loon because it's one of those things. When you look at a garage wall and it's not finished, you're like, does that bother me? No. Does it have to look like the inside of the house? No. But in the scheme of things, if you ever want to sell your house or if you want to have a little house pride, that's like a little thing that you could do to kind of fix something up, right?
It does. Yeah, the wow factor. You walk in and it's like, oh, this is nice. If this is how the garage looks, I'm sure the rest of the house looks even nicer.
Well, and the other thought is if I do that, then I might be more inclined maybe to put up some diamond plate or do some different shelves or maybe do a toolbox, something like that.
Sure.
Because right now it's kind of a hodgepodge. The previous homeowner had put like some old kitchen cabinets out there in the corner, and they have the wretched black wrought iron like handles on them and stuff like that, with the dark wood veneers. It's not pretty, but it's definitely good enough for a garage 10, 15, 20 years ago. So
sure,
might be time to step up the garage game. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. And the shelf is getting piled up with stuff that I think we need to have an inventory of the garbage that's been collecting for 10 years.
Do like a Marie Kondo situation where you...
Yes.
Does this kayak vest bring you joy?
No, nothing brings me joy out there. Yeah. And it's like, oh, here's a smokestack flap for a Kubota tractor that you've had for 10 years. You don't even have the tractor anymore, Eric. What are you doing with the flap? I'm saving it,
Just in case you have another one.
Yeah, exactly. Throw that stuff away, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's good.
So I got the only other thing I'm doing. I was saying in the pre-show a little bit. I got my 2025 calendar put up in my office at work, and I was making plans. I talked to my buddy Don, and Jake even said he might be inclined to do this. I got a trip to Salt Lake City in June, so I'm maybe thinking about making a trip out of it.
Have you ever been?
No, I've never. It is as well traveled as I am, and I don't say that flippantly. I've never been to Salt Lake. I've been around Salt Lake. I've been north. I've been south. I've been all around that town, but I've just never made that turn. I've always turned down south towards Vegas and never turned north towards Salt Lake. And Salt Lake City has the Land Cruiser Heritage Museum, so you would think it's a town I've been to. But
oh, wow. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yes, it's huge. It's awesome. And when they rolled out the new Land Cruiser, they did the launch at the Heritage Museum. I think Larry H. Miller, the dealer, I think he actually owns that. So
interesting.
It's got I think it has 100 Toyota Land Cruisers in it. So that I want to do that. And then I was talking to Regan, and Regan does stuff out at what's the salt flat? Bonneville?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so he told me a couple spots where he actually goes camp.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, man. So I think that's, it's funny to think that June is only 5 months away.
Yeah, it'll be here before you know it, for sure.
So we'll see. And I said, Mr. Ford even said something about going too. So
that might be fun.
Might be a big deal. And then the More Expo, which I went to last year, that got me all hooked up with Cindy and the Northology people. It happens in March.
Is that Michigan?
No, it's that's where we ended up in this fall, but More Expo is in Branson in March. So I already got tickets to that, so I'll be camping down there at the Northology campground. So if you want to hang out down there, certainly check it out. It's cool, and it's just a good time to hang out and meet some people. Met so many good people that I decided to go to Keweenaw last year and have a good time. So that, you know what? I think it's actually perfect. If you can't be doing activities, there maybe should be this cool down time where you
just plan,
take your head, look down and go, oh, yeah, let's breathe a little bit and make some plans.
I think there's something to be said for that because last year, it seems like the last few years, it's just been a blur.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
They just have. And it is nice if you do have some downtime to just look ahead, make some dates, make some plans with people you want to do before the year's up. Yeah. And just get it done. So
yeah, last year's calendar was insane. And I knew it was insane as I was going through it. And then because we'd had, because I'd picked up some steam with Toyota, I won 2 trips. I went to Colorado. I did that bourbon trip. I mean, it was like every month. Where's Eric? I was literally, where's Waldo? So, and I do appreciate that, but it got insane. So I'm looking forward to maybe slowing down a little bit.
Yeah, and hitting up the stuff that you really want to hit.
Yeah, because I had to compromise. I didn't go to as many TLCA events I wanted to do, and certainly I've been to the Badlands in forever, and the Chicago Overlander people do some stuff. So it'd be nice to stay local and do some stuff. And we even talked about doing a ring road around Lake Michigan this summer.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I don't know if I can do it, but man, what if we could pull it off in the fall? That'd be pretty cool. So
yeah, absolutely. Are you thinking about any of the winter rallies that you ran up to Madison?
Okay, all right. So
Cheese Freeze or whatever they called it. That was a great name.
No, so I'm not going to participate in any. I did look up the Snowball Rally is in Atlanta, Michigan. It's coming up here in February. And Atlanta, Michigan is literally like an hour north of Sage Lake, where I stayed last July at my cousin's cabin. And I didn't realize it was in northern Michigan there. So I've already eyeballed it. It's 8 hours north. It's actually 9 hours north. It's in the regular state of Michigan, not the UP.
Okay.
That's a long drive for February to stand out in the snow and watch cars. I'm pretty sure that race must move, because in the past I think they've had it up by Duluth and they've had it up by Wausau and stuff like that, or in the UP.
So it moves around?
I think so. Okay. So I don't think I'm going to go this year, but that has been on my list to go to. So last year I couldn't make it to the 100 Acre Wood Rally, which is down at Mark Twain Forest. So, dude, the rally thing is just on the cusp. I'm just literally on the edge of just sticking my toe in that. I'm so close.
Yeah.
So it's dangerous waters, because, how many more hobbies can you get, Eric? And then I ran into Dean Plumador at lunch.
Oh, how's he
yesterday?
doing?
He's doing great.
Yeah.
He got a C8. And he's racing down the St. Louis region, and he's like, "Hey, we going to race?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got to do more of that this year too." So got to take out a couple weekends and go to Champaign County. I got to go. Hopefully we're doing something with the Central Illinois Region SCCA. So, yeah. Hey, I guess I didn't think I was busy, but
It's
I'll be
looking it's looking like you're going to have a full schedule. But it's good
As
though.
usual, yeah. So anyway, that's enough about me. Daryl Scott, what is going on in the Auto Museum in North Peoria?
Not much. Like you said, I kind of shut things down for the winter because I don't have heat or insulation out there.
You got rodent bait in the garage?
I don't have a problem. Knock on wood. I don't have a problem with that.
Because it smells like rodent pee in there?
It smells like stale gas and raccoons that used to live in there. It's still kind of on some days you can smell a little. It's gross. Anyways, I did order a new master cylinder for the 55 Cadillac Fleetwood. If you're new to the show, I'm working on resurrecting a 55 Fleetwood that has been sitting since 1989 or so. Got it running finally in November before putting everything away.
That's on your TikTok, right? At Throwing Wrenches?
It is. It is. You can follow it there.
We didn't talk about it. The Christmas episode kind of was lacking car material. So that was a huge move.
Yeah, and it literally was. It was like early November. I had some work trips and stuff that I was just shutting everything down. I'm like, forget it. I'm not going to get around to this. And I came close. A good friend Gabe Casey and I got the thing. I had a week in between jobs where I just threw everything at it. And he was over at our house, I think like 4 days in a row, just like running new fuel line and like crawling around underneath and helping me put parts back on the thing, water pumps and all
Was
that.
the tank varnished? Did you pull it and clean it?
Tank was shot.
Okay.
It didn't seem like it leaked, but we dropped it. It was full of varnished gas, and it actually had pinholes. Right, it was
corroded through.
It was awful. So
Had you put gas in it and it leaked out, or
no? I actually I ordered a new tank because I'm like, I don't even want to clean it. Just to clean it anymore is like finding a radiator shop to boil out a gas tank.
Ole's is closed?
There's like two. I think there's one in Peoria and one in Lincoln, and both of them were like, I don't just boil it out. I seal it and I do this, and they have this franchise they call like Tank Renew.
Oh, really?
And so they put this like epoxy coat sealer. They boil it out and then seal it with this stuff, which is fine. It's like guaranteed not to come out, but they all come out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like $300 or $400. I'm like, well, for $399, I get a new tank, stainless straps, and a sending unit. Forget it. So I just got a repro one. But that all got hooked up. New fuel pump. The car, it was giving me fits though because I wasn't getting spark. And my friend Ryan came over and his lovely wife Andrea, and so they were just in the neighborhood and they were dropping some stuff off, and they're like, hey, so what's with the deal with the Caddy? Like, how close is it? Like, you're not getting spark? What's going on? And I'm like, come out and look at it. Let's check this out. So we tore into it, pulled the distributor cap off, and I pulled the points out again, kind of messed around, and there was like some weird broken pieces of old, I think it was an old rotor or like some electrode or something that somehow was in there under the, like wedged in the breaker plate, between the breaker plate and the body of the distributor, which I didn't see before because I was probably working with no light and, frustrated and working a week solid. Where you ever just focus and hyperfixate and you're just like, you don't even care anymore. You're just you're being reckless and careless with it.
I don't know because I've never worked on a car like that. So no, I have not done that. But when I had little mule, my chainsaw truck, I did get to the point where I was like, all right, I'm going to fix this. And it got to the point where it was almost like using a mallet just to kind of straighten some stuff out.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what you're talking about.
Well, it's just I wasn't as methodical as I started out to be, and I was just like, I'm just gonna get this thing running, and I'm overlooking big stuff, and so what I wound up doing was pulling all that out, put it back in, tighten it up the point gap a little bit, and I go to turn it over, and it keys right, it's just kind of like barks off like it's gonna fire. And so we're like, okay, let's go to the house and get the ladies out here. And like, I think we should take some video because I think this thing's about to go.
Yeah, because I saw the video. It was Gabe turning the key?
No, it was my buddy Ryan.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I knew there was a lot of people involved at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, because I was under there feathering the throttle and trying to feed starting fluid into it and stuff like that. And I'd oiled everything down. I mean, I did it right. I mean, it did pretty methodical. But she turned over and she just went. She ran great. But I think that either the timing's off or I got a plug wire backwards or something. They're my firing order. I was happy just hearing it run for about 35 seconds.
And that's all you left to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't keep at it. I just let it run. I'm like, yep, that's proof. It didn't even smoke that bad. Smoked a little bit, but not that bad. And there was no noises. The valve train was fine. The lower end was fine.
So on a car like that, forgive my ignorance.
No, you're fine. Go for it.
Cat converters?
No.
So an exhaust on that would just be straight pipe, but routed in a way with mufflers to be quiet.
Yeah, pretty good size mufflers are probably like 3 feet long or something crazy. It actually, it didn't make that much noise. So I was happy with how that all went down. So I'll dial it in. I'll put the timing light on and get all that going here in the spring. But the big thing for me is brakes. And I got new brake lines on Black Friday. I ordered some pre-bent lines and got all that done. I've got brake wheel cylinders, shoes. I ordered a new master cylinder the other day. I found a decent one through Cantor. They sell parts. And I only just need the brake hardware, like the springs and stuff. And the brakes will be good to go. I'll get that done so it'll actually stop and I can actually move it. Right now the fronts are still binding up because I haven't taken them all apart and cleaned them and redone it. So I'll do that. I was contemplating to get a diesel heater for the garage to work out there, but I think I just talked myself out of it because they're probably a fire hazard. And then, like you, I don't have enough hobbies and enough projects. And Sarah and I were walking through a thrift store. And we were looking for some, I think we were looking for white elephant gifts for our car club Christmas party. And in the back room, they had cuckoo clocks. Like one was $5 and one was $6. And they were like in a little Tupperware or Rubbermaid tote. Like somebody had like busted it and tried to fix it. And it was just, it was awful. And I look at it and I'm like, they just don't look that hard to put together. And I always kind of wanted one. My dad had one when I was a kid and stuff. And it was kind of fun. I bought them, brought them home. And within like 2 days, I had them working. And I'm like, I don't need to do this. And now my dad brought me one. Oh, you're into cuckoo clocks. Or my mom.
Great.
Yeah. My mom calls it cuckoo. We brought your cuckoo crap down here. So when they came down to visit, my dad had one he took apart, was trying to fix, and it wouldn't keep time. Yeah. He's like, well, you can have it. You can probably fix this thing. So now I got 3 of them. And now I'm gluing pieces back together and learn how to make the cuckoo whistle things with the new paper.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's fun.
Little compression stuff.
Yeah, and it's
bellows.
You know what it's going to do? Here's my rationale. One, I'm saving some stuff, right? Saving something that's kind of neat, handmade, from being thrown out. But then the other thing is it's teaching me patience and to be thorough because all that stuff is so small. And I got these giant meat gloves that I can't fit in there. It's teaching me like a little bit of dexterity. Yeah. So we'll see.
So I did not anticipate the segue. So do you remember Donut Media? Do you ever watch those guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the main hosts on the original Donut Media was James Pumphrey.
Yes.
He was kind of the goofy, tall guy with the beard.
Yep.
Well, he broke away, and a couple of the other guys broke away, but James has a channel now called Speed.
Okay.
It's SPEED, and it's on YouTube. And so it's really weird. He's kind of branched off. It's almost like like a yogi type situation where he's like giving life advice and some stuff.
Yeah.
But one of them was learn how to fix things when he was giving life advice the other day. It's like he's talking about, don't be the guy who has to call somebody to do this or that or fix a leaking pipe or something like that. Just learn how to do everything. And I think the cuckoo clock thing kind of reminded me that there's things you can fix yourself. Open it up, look inside, see what you think you can handle. Angela had a cuckoo clock that her dad had bought in Germany when he was there during Korean War.
On the service, yeah.
Yeah, and so it had sat for years in her mom's house, and so she got it, and I cleaned it up, we got it going, but it was always missing the horns. And I'm like, I got on eBay one day, and you just say you just look at what size you want, 4-inch or 3-inch horns.
Yeah,
they're universal fit, and I got them, and the next thing you know, it looks like brand new, and I'm like, well, that was easy. This thing's been sitting in a box for 30 years.
Do you have it back up on
the
wall?
And now it's hanging in the living room. So
does it work?
Yeah.
It's awesome, isn't it?
It is. It's pretty cool. But
it's one of those. I did the same thing. One of the ones I bought was missing the topper.
Yeah.
And same thing. I measured them like 5-inch. I went online, 5-inch by 2, whatever. Yeah. Ordered one up. Yeah. Done. $15.
They're pretty standard. I mean, I think replacement parts are pretty easy for those things.
It's not bad. Yeah. So I'm with you though. I do like that mentality that you. Yeah, there's certain things you have to just farm out because it's not worth your time or it's above your skill set. Like just
or you could get hurt. You could injure something. I had a tree actually fall down during this last storm within a foot of the barn. And had I known it was that dead and that close to the barn, I would have called a professional out to clean it up.
Just because.
Yeah, because I don't want to risk it falling on. So at some point you have to call people in.
Well, same thing with like garage door springs. I will never ever change one of those
I have gotten to the point in my life where I think I might do them. I think residential ones aren't nearly as scary. I mean, if they're going to throw a wrench, don't stand there with your face in front of it as you're like doing this.
No.
But as long as you know what you're dealing with, and I think it's a 2-man job, to be fair.
Probably.
I think although maybe if you're doing a one-man, you could at least know you have your vice grips on there strong, right?
I've seen enough videos where even the pros, I'm like, nah.
Our doors break. I have a door guy at the store every 3 or 4 months.
Do they have those wound springs like that? Mm-hmm. No, use like LiftMaster or something where it's just like this self-contained chain drive
we have
thing?
these giant, because those doors are huge. They're 14-foot doors.
Yeah.
So we have these big springs. It's low-tech.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my guys was asking the other day about speed doors. Like, can we get speed doors? I'm like, dude, they're like fiberglass and they're like 10 foot tall.
It's not the same.
No, we can't do them.
Yeah.
Although it's nice. Never let it heat out. Never let air conditioning out. You just like zip, zip, zip. You
That
ever seen
part's
them?
nice. Yeah. Yeah, the Chevy dealer where I grew up had something similar where it's quick.
It is.
Especially if you're paying to heat that thing in the winter, you don't want it to lose. But no, there is something to be said for being self-reliant. Totally agree with you.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on there.
No. All right, so that's it for projects.
That was your last. Fixing Black Forest cuckoo clocks. That might be your next intro.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, everybody. So we're going to hop right into a traditional Throwing Wrenches episode. We got some news articles, and we've been saving up a bunch of them for you here. So with that being said, it's time for the news.
Need some music for that.
Yeah. So are you down with BYD?
you know me.
BYD. Yeah. I can't even think what would like rhyme with, PYT, pretty young thing, but what would be,
I don't know. It's a tough one. I was trying to think of a joke.
bad young dude.
Earlier. Bad young dude. Now, and half the listeners right now are going like, "What is the PYT? What is that?"
PYT. I don't know. Half our listeners are
See,
50.
back in the day, the king of pop was known as Michael Jackson.
Right.
Had a great. By the way, that's a great tune on Thriller. PYT is probably the best tune.
I don't
on
think
there.
so. I was never a Thriller fan. So.
No?
No. I didn't like. You know what? I was counterculture even back then.
Were
so,
you?
yeah, if it was a top album,
You're like, forget it.
I was tuned out. I'm like, I'm not gonna listen to that stuff.
It's me and Taylor Swift.
Is
like,
it?
how do you hate her? I'm like, because I do.
No,
Because
I don't
everybody
mind-
loves
I
her.
don't mind Taylor Swift.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not a Swiftie, but anyway. All right, so this news comes. It's from BYD. You may have heard this in news. Brazil has yanked temporary work visas for China's BYD after human trafficking claims. Oh my. Brazil has stopped issuing temporary work visas for BYD. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on December 28th, it's in the wake of accusations that some of the workers at the site owned by the Chinese EV producer have been victims of human trafficking. The announcement came days after labor authorities said that they found 163 Chinese workers who had been brought to Brazil irregularly in a slavery-like condition at the BYD factory construction site in northeastern state of Bahia. We'll call it Bahia. We think that's what it is. The workers were employed by contractor Jinjiang Group, which denied any wrongdoing. So I did pull this article up. There's a Reuters article, but it said they brought the Chinese workers over on irregular visas, and BYD does now agree to comply with Brazilian labor laws, and the contract will pay to send 163 workers back to China. So they got to do it all properly.
Interesting. It's unfortunate. You think in this day and age that that's not really a thing, but turns out it's still a thing.
Yeah, the other interesting thing about this, I thought BYD was really just restricted to China. I mean, I know we're doing everything possible. I think even the Biden administration has done everything it can to keep BYD vehicles out of the United States. Mm-hmm. They've tariffed the heck out of them. But if they're in Brazil, and I'm not sure where Brazil ranks as far as South American markets, but they're probably number one in South America. Does that mean we'll find BYD vehicles in Mexico, and soon they'll be finding their way to Europe?
Probably. Well, and the other thing, too, is was it batteries? What was it? They had some joint venture, or they were supplying batteries for some of the other EV makers, I thought. I lost track. But not the first time they've been in the news for some stuff, though. Yeah. And it is unfortunate. I mean, you think back to, like, the Foxconn stuff, and, it's not the first time we've heard similar allegations from companies that are based in China, and it's not unique to China, but certainly does seem to kind of happen a little more frequently with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
this one, this was not on the article, but this did remind me. This was in Southeast Asia News. Southeast Asia News. Japan's car makers vow closer ties to regain lost ground with China. To survive, Japanese manufacturers are pledging to cooperate in AI and EVs while also navigating trade tensions and internal restructuring. That is kind of crazy. if the Japanese automakers are trying their best to get into the Chinese market. I don't know. I think China is going to set it up so that you're not going to get into their market. They've learned everything. Elon and Tesla will be like, see you later. They've lost their stance there. And I would think if you're Toyota or Honda, you'd be like, why do I even bother at this point, right?
Well, you keep hearing, too, like that market is not what it used to be.
That's true, too.
That was the thing 20 years ago. GM was like, oh, we're gonna plant our flag here. We're going to send stuff here. And it's an emerging market. And I think that middle class is kind of shrinking, or at least you don't hear that much about it growing anymore.
Yeah.
Interesting. So here's another story out of China regarding automakers. Chinese automakers can still undercut European rivals like Volkswagen, even with current tariffs that are in place. After decades of relatively stable business in Europe, Wards Auto is reporting that legacy automakers Stellantis, VW, Renault, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz are all watching their profitability and workforces come under significant pressure from an influx of Chinese automakers that are appealing to European customers with, that's right, lower prices and high-value goods. So, like you were saying, other markets, it's going to be a thing. So
it is going to be a thing. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he's like, I said, it's going to be a weird year. And he goes, Eric, it's always a weird year. And I tell you what, the China stuff, it's going to be a weird year. With the Trump administration taking over here in a couple weeks, to see where the stance falls with the United States versus China and cars going back and forth.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't walk through a Walmart and not buy Chinese goods.
No, it's
funny that cars can be they can draw lines on those things.
We're going to hold the line on that, but everything else,
televisions, mixers, you name it, that's all going to be from China.
Phone, your computer, Lenovo computer, all that's fine.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Fine. It is weird. It is weird where we do want to draw that line and take a stance. Something else too. Obviously, they're not China, but like the Vietnamese startup VinFast, that was going to be a big thing.
Yeah,
right?
What happened to them?
I think they're fizzled. I don't know if it's a dealer network or part of the whole EV kind of. I guess, like, what do you want to call it? People kind of walking away from some aspects of that. It's weird because I still get, like, Car and Driver and stuff. They'll do, like, driver reports and, like, like, actually, this is a decent vehicle and blah, 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 but no one will see. They basically said, like, no one's going to see this. No one's going to buy it.
VinFast, such a weird name. I mean, I think of VinWiki, because we follow that channel because of Steve Brown, stuff like that. But I'm like, VinFast. I almost thought it was like a meme name or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't think it was real.
Yeah.
It's the Vin Diesel. What is this?
So bizarre. Yeah. Now, here was the big story going on, and we got a couple notes on this one. This is Honda and Nissan and Mitsubishi. So this headline comes from Bloomberg. For Honda, a Nissan Rescue comes with only a thin silver lining. The rapid rise of electric vehicles in China and in parts of Europe, coupled with the resurgence from popularity of hybrids, is pushing the legacy brands to band together, at the very least, by assuming Nissan's resources, such as factories, manpower, and intellectual property. Honda may gain access to the heft it needs for its own to keep its head above water. The consolidation of the EV platforms, supply chains, and shared research and development expenses may also help improve both automakers' cost competitiveness, Bloomberg Intelligence said. This is a huge story, and I thought it was interesting to see those three automakers standing side by side by side. Did you see they had their three podiums the other day? Because Mitsubishi's in this. They don't really talk about Mitsubishi in this article.
No, that came later. It was the big Honda and Nissan. Like, well, Mitsu's part. Like, why aren't we talking about that?
Right.
But that's a big deal. I think that's because for the longest time, Nissan was in trouble. Obviously, we followed the Carlos Ghosn debacle, but then they really do. I hate to see where kind of Nissan has ended up because I feel at one time they were like and they probably still are, a good automaker.
There was I found the YouTube hole the other night, and it was basically the last 10 years, and they do blame Carlos Ghosn, for a lot of the. Did they merge with Renault?
Yeah. That was,
and so they tried to partner network there. Their CVT transmissions really brought down the integrity of the brand. Their entry level cars were garbage. I mean, and this goes back to a time old tale of if you sell decent economy cars, people will stick with the brand. And Nissan has done a terrible job with having good starter cars.
Right.
So how many people? I mean, you think about the Maxima. You think about the Infiniti brand. I mean, how many people are going to be loyal to that brand if a Sentra and an Altima are garbage cars? You know, they literally are disposable, right?
Yeah, or they share like the same transmission that goes out in you know, the Muranos, the same stuff you're running in a $70,000 Infiniti SUV. So Honda, I do want to I question Honda. I feel like has also lost its way a little bit, and I don't know what that. I mean, that's just me.
Feels like desperation.
A little bit. I mean, they're doing weird stuff like was it the Prologue, which is like a rebadged Chevy Trailblazer. It's like a weird joint venture / EV thing. Yeah. And that's not selling, and people are, you know, very vocal online about like, what is Honda doing? Like they used to be like, them and Toyota were neck and neck, where it was like they kind of put out, you know, they did the hybrid thing together. They did. I feel like they were kind of like natural allies and competitors at the same time, but they also pushed quality and functionality and resale forward. And here it is. It's like, oh, what do they want with Nissan? Like, what do they get out of it other than a footprint or some of the European? Maybe that's that Renault reach, right?
I think it's volume. I mean, you need volume in order to keep your costs down, right? I mean, if you're going to fill a shipload of cars, you know, and send them overseas, it's better to have more cars on there than. Or more ships going. Yeah. Same thing with networks as far as selling cars. You can't. It's hard to be a niche dealer anymore. You know, you can't be selling 1/10 of what the GM guys are selling and still keep your dealers happy and keep customers coming and going. I don't know.
Do you think that we would see the end of Infiniti then? Because Acura is their halo brand. They don't want to get rid of. Or support two different luxury brands, do you?
And so you're right. Honda is the big question mark in this. We know Nissan's struggling. Everybody knows Mitsubishi struggled. Same thing. It would be like Suzuki and stuff like that. But Honda doesn't seem like they fall into that line. But just like when Toyota was working with Mazda this year, you know, they built a joint plant together. Mazda has basically agreed with Subaru. They're going to do all their EV technology with Toyota.
Right.
So these brands understand that the amount of research it takes, the billions of dollars that Rivian burns just to do research on batteries and make electric motors, stuff like that.
They've got it already.
Yeah. So, you know, why, you know, they can't reinvent the wheel.
They don't need to. I don't think they need to. You know, one of the things you were talking about, like the Subaru and Toyota thing. I mean, over Christmas, one of Sarah's relatives was talking about, I want to buy a new Subaru, but I'm going to wait for the hybrid. But it's kind of an unproven thing unless they use the Toyota setup. And I'm like, well, they probably will. The Subaru's not going to just all of a sudden.
No, the Subaru is the Toyota setup.
That's the thing.
Yeah, but Toyota's not really big on the EVs. They doubled down on hydrogen, and now I've heard the hydrogen networks are kind of collapsing in California. So I don't know what's going on there.
Everything. It does feel like this was a neat little blip in history, right?
Yeah.
We're going to do EVs. We're going to do this. We're going to do hybrids. We're going to do, and then we're still just doing the same old, same old. They're still building new gas stations. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah, they're not going away.
No,
it's tough from our perspective. I mean, it's it's hard to stand in Central Illinois,
like where we're at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is how the world operates.
No,
because it's not. It's not. You know, and as I was in Italy here a while back, and you see gas is literally $8 a gallon there, and my cousin, he drives a Mini Countryman. He talks about how he spends $100 to fill up a Mini Countryman, you know, and I'm like, God, I spend $60 to fill up my 4Runner and get a quarter of the fuel economy you're pushing out of this
thing. Twice a week.
So you can see why other places like Japan and
Europe
are trying really hard to do EVs, and they're trying to do hydrogen cars, stuff like that, because they're just trying to figure out better ways than gasoline. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I did pull up this other article. It was from Design Rush, but it basically said Honda CEO struggles to explain the benefits of the Nissan merger, and it was interesting.
I have a quote. It's like, I don't know why we're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Even like... Honda CEO Toshiro Mibe recently struggled to articulate why a merger with the renowned Japanese car manufacturer Nissan would be a smart strategic move for the company. Mibe had a too candid moment with the press when asked why Nissan would make a good business partner for the longtime competitor. I hate when they just... It's literally, we got to get our word count bumped up, to 800 words on this article. So let's rehash the headline 3 times through the paragraphs, right? Yeah. Sorry, that's me. He stated, that's a difficult one after failing to articulate and communicate the particular reason. Albeit met with initial excitement, the proposed merger started raising questions among critics who are now wondering whether the union is a smart strategy or a risky gamble. I think that's pretty much the meat and bones of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can't, I don't know. If you can't sell that to the public, to the press,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you need Michael J. Fox in the Spin Room, right? Or Spin City?
Spin City. Yeah. Can write a little something for you.
There you go.
Speaking of, politics and spin, we did lose former President Jimmy Carter recently. That was the other kind of big news. Well, you might ask, yeah, what's that have to do with cars? A lot of people, including myself, I was not born until the very end of his presidency. Yeah, Eric was around probably for the whole thing, right?
I went to Plains, Georgia as a kid.
Did you?
My mom...
Did you buy Billy beer?
Yes. Yes, I didn't, but my mom did. We had cans of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was an interesting time. My mom was a Democratic... she was kind of she was a Democratic judge in Livingston County,
Okay.
and she was a fan of Carter. And so we went to Plains, Georgia after he got elected. I don't know what she did there because I was just a little kid, but my brother and I were in the back of the car. And
She got some bumper stickers or
yeah,
something.
I got some Billy beer, and we came home from Plains, Georgia.
Well, people...
I should ask her what she did. Maybe it was some subversive,
It's like some Watergate stuff,
Exactly.
but with peanut farmers.
Anyway, that's my Jimmy Carter story. Never met him, though.
Well, it's interesting. So he, regardless of where people fall on the political spectrum, and he is one that for some reason still people are so he's polarizing, right?
I never understood why. I think because people either consider him a colossal failure or a tremendous humanitarian, right?
Right. And there's no middle
Yeah.
of the road, whatever, which kind of speaks to where we're at now. But at the same time, the reason we're talking about it on this show is because he kind of presided over the country at a really difficult time. We talked about energy crisis and, OPEC 2 and embargoes and gas lines and shortages again. And, of course, all the stuff with Iran. Really, really a difficult time. And a lot of that, was definitely the ripple effect was felt in the automotive industry. And that's where we started having things like catalytic converters be mandated and emissions laws were stiffened up and all kinds of really interesting.
These little Japanese cars showed up.
Japanese cars started to kind of creep into the scene. And also things like Chrysler, one of the big three. Well, we're really struggling here. And, we're probably going to go bankrupt. So there was really some stuff that I think he was interesting. He championed energy conservation, seatbelts, airbags. I remember famously, reading all the history books and stuff, put solar panels on the White House, which were taken down like the next week after
he did that.
Yes, there were solar panels on.
God,
this is like
they had to be the most horrible, hideous-looking things because I've seen solar panels from the 70s, and
they're giant.
Yeah.
Well, the funny part is, how would you like to? I don't know if you could do that today and be like, "Hey, this historic landmark. Yeah, I'm going to bolt some solar panels onto the roof."
Trust me, they've overhauled that whole building. I don't know how much is actually original to the White House.
True, yeah, it's true. I remember too. That era of automotive history is referred to as the malaise era by a lot of people.
Oh,
because,
you love, dude. What happened to Malaise Motors? You used to be so deep.
Oh,
into
they're still in. Oh, they're still on. A Facebook group called Malaise Motors celebrates a lot of that stuff. The emissions era and cars that had Landau roofs and big V8s with 80 horsepower. But the funny part is, I remember pictures of his daughter, and I think she drove like a Chevette. And they're like, "This is what the president's putting his daughter in," or whatever. And it was like a '77 Chevette, and everybody was like making fun of her. I thought, you know what? What a responsible dude. You don't need to have whatever, some sort of giant beast like a New Yorker or something like that. Like, he's being responsible and just kind of a down-to-earth guy. 100 years old, he finally passed away, about a year after his wife, Rosalind, did?
Yeah,
or 8 months
it
or
was
something?
about a year ago, yeah.
So we should all be that lucky to live so long. Interesting dude. And, of course, if you followed the Habitat stuff, he was kind of an icon as far as that goes. He was still swinging a hammer on some of this stuff.
Till 2 years ago.
A couple years ago.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on my couch, and I'm like, I'm too lazy to get up and change the channel or, like, get something to drink, and I'm sitting here like,
He has people, though. I mean, you have to imagine that somebody probably stopped by Jimmy's house every day. Somebody else got him out of bed. I mean, he wasn't your normal 98-year-old.
No.
Yeah, I'm sure he had...
He was looked after, I'm sure.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So it was interesting. You say the Chevette. I was watching classic Bob Barker on Pluto TV the other day. and the game came up with a dice game where you roll the dice and you have to guess if the price is higher than lower than the six-sided dice.
Okay.
And a Chevy Chevette was the car that was on the the roster. So the gal throws the die, and it's a 4.
Okay.
And maybe it was a 5. It was a 5. And she said, oh, no. It was, Anyway, what it boils down to is when I watched the price, and this is a Chevette from the 70s.
Yeah.
The price was like $54.35 or something like that.
Probably. Yeah.
And I really want to do like an inflation thing just to see what that was in today's dollars, because $5,400 for a Chevette in the 70s sounds outrageous.
Yeah, it might have been the Chevette Woody, the real top of the line one.
Yeah.
Because I remember for the longest time, they made that car in at least in the States, until 1987, and it was the lowest price car in America, and I think for like one of the longest running stretches.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, my family had 3 of those things over the years, and it's hilarious because they're tiny and they're nothing to write home about, but they just run, and they were tough. They were rear wheel drive. They were fun to drive in the winter. You could kind of screw around in a parking lot and have a lot of fun. They were great on ice. People race them up in like Wisconsin on lakes and stuff.
Yeah.
There's like a whole thing. But yeah, the fact that, I
got 1984. So I if you go to YouTube, there's a Chevette card game. There's a Chevette dart throw. I can't find the actual one with the dice.
Okay.
The money game. This could be when Price is Right, money change. All right. If I can find it, we'll link it in the article. But
that'd be fun.
But again, when people were making $2 minimum wage and cars were $5,000, I guess if you're in Illinois and you're making $16 and cars are $70,000, is it the same thing?
I take it. Yeah, probably. I take it back. I don't know if it was Amy I don't know if his daughter drove the Chevette or if it was his. I think it was his because she would have been too young.
He seems like the kind of guy who'd drive a celebrity.
It was pre-celebrity.
Oh.
It was pre-celebrity. It didn't come out yet. The public hadn't.
81 was that a celebrity?
82.
Okay.
Technically.
Yeah, that was close. That was close.
Yeah, they're gross. But no, interesting figure, and especially when you talk about the energy crisis and how that kind of shaped where we are today, and the rise of Japanese and other import cars like Volkswagen diesels. Volkswagen diesels were huge in the late 70s because you weren't really struggling with the gas crisis stuff. You weren't waiting in line for those, and you weren't having to go back every 3 days because you're
TDIs were a huge thing there for a while.
Yeah, no, they were great cars, and a lot of that is all the direct result of what happened during his presidency.
So the next headline, this reminds me of Tom Brady jumping on a couch acting like
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. It didn't work out so well. Crazy cheap Teslas hit the market as Hertz has a fire sale, and it intensifies. Hertz's decision to buy 100,000 Tesla has backfired badly. But it does mean cheap EVs are up for grabs. The car rental giant began to sell off its giant stock of Teslas a year ago due to the lack of demand from customers who prefer the gas models. Bosses also said they wanted to offload the cars due to their high repair costs.
What?
With slow demand, Hertz is being forced to sell the electric vehicles at steep discounts. That's according to the Daily Mail. We'll link that in there. And all I can think of is when Tom Brady was jumping on that couch in those stupid commercials I had to watch on the YouTube.
Yeah.
On the YouTube.
On the YouTube.
On the YouTube. He couldn't even imitate Tom Cruise well enough. It was terrible. It was so wooden.
He's great. He's so funny. He's everywhere.
He's not that great.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Did you watch his roast?
I did.
Yeah. What do you think?
It was all right.
Nikki Glaser was amazing.
She's good.
But she wasn't good on the Golden Globes. What do you think?
I flipped through and I saw a couple of her little bits, and I didn't.
These are bad segues, kids. If you're in broadcasting, never follow along with the segues that Daryl and I do.
No, it's. I didn't watch the Golden Globes.
You didn't? No. Well, there's a 10-minute YouTube roll of her opening monologue.
Did she stumble or was she?
No,
right?
It's just boring.
Yeah.
She attacked, but it was with kid gloves, and she can attack so much harder.
Award shows, they're painful. I can't watch them anymore.
Right.
But no, as far as that goes, the story itself. Sarah actually sent me a link to Hertz's website, and we were looking through. She's like, "Hey, we could get a Model 3 like really cheap, and they'll have pretty low miles on them."
I think I saw like 25 or 27 grand.
Yeah, 22. Yeah. We saw the cheapest one was 22, and then you can get ones with even lower mileage for not that much more. And there's stories that she sent me one of a guy, I forget what it was. Somebody wrote into one of the auto magazines and said he rented a Hertz Tesla, and like a day or two later, they're like, "Hey, you want to just go ahead and buy this car?
And just
keep
it?"
Yeah. And he's like, sure. And he offered him like 17 grand, like sold. Like they they literally text you while you're renting the car. Like, hey, you wouldn't just
makes me want to rent one.
Kind of does.
Yeah.
They're also, when I was in Austin for work, I went and I looked up to see what it would cost to rent a car. I'm like, it'd be cool to have a car and just buzz around Texas for a day or two. I didn't, but the EVs were the cheapest price. You go in and find like smaller, least demand, and they're like, "Have you considered electric?" I'm like, "Why no?" And it was like $40 cheaper or something. So they really are trying to get these things, get their money out of it, and get them out, which is weird to me because I would think in some urban areas a Tesla rental would be perfect.
You would think,
and you don't have to worry about like, I got to fill this thing with gas or.
I think that, but the most daunting thing, I mean, just like renting a car in Europe or something like that, you worry about filling up before you head to the airport to return the car.
Mm-hmm.
If I rent a car, I know I can get gas everywhere. If I rent a Tesla, do I have to deal with charging this thing somewhere for a couple hours? I mean...
do they hit you up? Do you have to return it fully charged?
Well, yeah, that. God, I hope not. But then at the same time, I mean, do I got to stand in a Walmart parking lot for a couple hours while I'm waiting for it to fill up on my way to Galveston or something like that?
Somewhere you don't know.
What fun is that?
Yeah, I guess.
No thanks. Anyway.
You can buy all the souvenir T-shirts you want, Eric.
All right, in local news, there were tons and tons of articles lately about Rivian. And Rivian is that EV car maker that's just down the road from us here in central Illinois. They've been pumping out the R1 and the R1T or something like that.
R1S.
Yeah, the SUVs. But so what there were so many articles. I just went ahead and ran down. I went to Google, I typed in Rivian, and I went to news. And Hyperbeast says Rivian is charting a bold new path. Motor Trend says learning all about the new R3 and the R3X with their design chief. It says in Yahoo Finance, here's why Rivian crashed today. Their stock has been up and down. And then Motley Fool with their classic, bait and switch is what I called it. But the Rivian deliveries rebound is the stock a buy in 2025. Yeah. They said Design Milk says Rivian's Joshua Tree charging outpost is also a place to hang out, Daryl.
Really?
Yeah. Amazon has more than 20,000 Rivian vans for delivery in the United States. And Rivian's success last year, according to CarBuzz, is a warning to mainstream automakers. So there's all kinds of Rivian news. I don't know. I mean, everything I'm reading here is pretty glowing. But their stock price is still falling, right?
Yeah, it's still not rebounding to where people had hoped, but also it's still probably a good time to buy. The charging station that they have, the charging outpost out in Joshua Tree, that's the one that kind of made it look like an old-timey service station.
I've seen it.
And it looks like something out of like Pixar's Cars.
We were there a couple years ago, and people were doing test drives. They had like a whole outpost out there where you had to have a hat. I think you had to have a wide-brimmed hat and possibly a denim shirt in order to drive it.
And they let you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there is, we were talking too, that smaller entry-level one that they've got out. That's what, 40-some, mid-40s?
45,000 for the R2. Yeah, I watched Doug DeMuro do his walk-around.
Yeah.
And
it's getting pretty favorable reviews.
I mean, 45,000, and maybe all-wheel drive at that point. I think that's a sweet spot, right?
Mm-hmm. I would think so.
Hell, you can't. I mean, a new Camry is 32, 33.
Right.
And I think a Highlander costs more than 45 all day long. So.
Yeah,
although this is smaller. This is probably closer to a RAV4 size.
Yeah, and then there's the hatchback that's further out, right?
Yeah.
The smaller car kind of.
Well, and I think that's where Rivian's going to have to make their money at this point. Yeah, Rivian finished at 1572. I don't have the chart in front of me, but they got a ways to go, man. I tell you what, I know so many people in our neck of the woods who have stock, who work there, who have faith and trust that company is going to take them out the next couple of years. Rivian's also got a big infusion from the Biden administration for Biden left for like $6 billion or something like that.
Yeah, recent.
But now there's talk, that they're going to fund that into the Georgia plant. So we'll see where that goes. And also, did you read about Canoo lately?
No, but I saw your note up there. What's going on with Canoo? You always kind of had a soft spot for
I
that.
do. I love. So Canoo is a EV maker in Oklahoma City, and I've driven past their factory a couple times. And if you look at their vehicles, I even played a video for Aiden the other night. My son, it showed the Canoo truck. The Canoo had a really odd shape. It looked like a pill.
Yeah.
The van, and the Postal Service said they were going to use some of their units. But if you didn't get the pill-shaped van, they cut the back off and made like an industrial truck. and they're cool. They really did a nice job with them. I've watched test drives. I'm like, all right. And you would think by the facade along the interstate that this is like Rivian.
Mm-hmm.
They've done everything. They got all the money. But over the last 6 months, they've had a ton of changes. There's been a bunch of whistleblowers saying the money's not going into factories. And, oh, by the way, when people come by the factory to see it working, the robots are kind of moving arms, but they're not making anything. They haven't actually built a car there in, I guess, a couple months. So
it's unfortunate. Yeah, there's a couple articles that are floating around out there. The one on New York Sun is like, Canoe is cool, but probably doomed. That's a great headline.
Yeah.
They were cool. The design of it, definitely striking and kind of a fun, quirky, hip way that
the cool
you want
thing
an
was,
EV to be.
So one of the things they had in the Canoe was the front of it was almost like a helicopter where you had this giant glass face on them. And so where your feet were at, you actually could see the pavement. And because the steering wheel and the brakes and the gas aren't actually connected by any lines, you could move from left to right-hand drive pretty easily when you manufacture the vehicle. But all the while, when you're driving it, you have this full scope in front of you. It's really wild to watch the test drives on this.
Yeah, and the doors are set back a little bit too, kind of like almost like a mid door.
It was almost like a Previa van the way it was set up.
Yeah, that's probably why you like it.
Maybe that's why. Yeah.
Have you seen the Scout too? The Scout renderings that they put out.
Oddly Rivian-like, don't you think?
Looks a lot like a Rivian. One of the, I forget it was a Motor Trend or one of the articles I just read over the holidays. They had, I think, a full build, 2 prototypes that they built. They were like testing and they're like, well, these are pre-production. It's going to change, but yeah, it was straight up Rivian. Cool looking, and I think they're still going to land kind of like where the ID Buzz is, like 61 to 63 is their base MSRP. I don't know. People still like trucks. People like their SUVs, but the Canoe, I think that is going to ride off into the sunset.
That sucks, man.
It does.
My son goes, man, I'd buy that thing, and I'm like, yeah, it actually is cool. You know, people when they buy cars, when they do all the accessories on them, they want a car that's unique.
Yeah.
And if it fills all your needs and can still look unique and make you feel like a part of your personality. Mm-hmm. That's why people buy vehicles. That's why you drive classic cars. That's why, there's old toy. I mean, there's just part of your identity is with the car. So I think Canoe was onto something. It wasn't just a boxy, like you look at the Grenadier. Or I'm trying to think of some of those other ones. When we went through the 12 EVs of Christmas.
Oh, yeah, the weird stuff.
I mean, we just pulled out some weird EV vehicles. But they all had one thing in common. It's like they were all like cut with box cutters and cardboard.
Angular,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like... Yeah, if you're starting a new car manufacturer, the last thing you could do is make a lot of bendy things. So you want to have straight lines, right?
Well, I know this will pull at your heartstrings a little bit. And maybe somebody will bail them out. Maybe Rivian will bail them out.
Maybe.
With all that $6 billion again.
Maybe not. All right, we alluded to this in the intro of the show. We got a supercar news search that's got 2 supercars. I didn't even know Chevy could make a supercar, Daryl. Did you know that?
I mean, besides the Corvette?
Well, it is a Corvette.
Okay.
Is that considered a supercar?
By some.
All right. Well, this one has 1,064 horsepower, so I guess that qualifies.
What?
Yeah, Chevy Corvette Zora. This is from Motor One. It's estimated at $200,000. The long-rumored Zora should be the Corvette to end all Corvettes. Meant to sit atop the food chain, the Zora will likely use a 1,064 horsepower twin-turbo flat-plane crank V8 from the newly revealed ZR1. Combined with the E-Ray's front-axle electric motor, Chevy hasn't confirmed any of this, but with some math, it should factor into over 1,200 ponies. Pair that with the all-wheel drive grip, and you have one of the most extreme, capable supercars of the 21st century. And can we hear the bald eagles screaming now?
Freedom. Yeah, there you go.
How's that go?
Seriously, though, 1,000 horse in something that light.
With an
engine.
EV front axle going nuts, yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. The name Zora, of course, comes from Corvette guys and Chevy guys will know. The father of the Corvette. Zora Arkas Duntov back in the 50s.
Oh, yeah, Zora Arkan Duntov. Yeah, I was just going to say that.
A lot of folks don't know who the heck that is. He died in 1996, but he really, really important engineer in Chevy's past, and he actually did envision before they actually built the C8 car. He envisioned having a mid-engine Corvette to kind of compete with some of the other supercars that are out there. Sadly, he didn't ever get to see that to fruition. I think there were some prototypes that came out like in the 80s, 70s, something like that. So he would be proud of something like this because he was all about horsepower and about engineering. So that is kind of a nice tribute. Cool that they would Maybe they'll call it like the Zora edition or something.
So he's leaving his mark of Zorro.
A little bit. Yeah, a little Z on there. But think about that, man. 1,000, almost 1,100 horsepower in something that light. I think that would be a hoot to drive.
Well, speaking of engineers of days past that you seem to love, DeLorean, the name is dug up.
Oh, there you go.
The Alpha 5. We go from the Zora to the Alpha 5. Estimated $150,000, Daryl. DeLorean is attempting to return to the world of new cars. It's using a striking sport coupe to lead the way. The Alpha 5, first revealed in 2022, uses a gull-wing motor or gull-wing doors like the original DMC-12 and sporty body lines by Ital Design. The company claims 0 to 60 in just 3.4 seconds and a 300-mile range for the all-electric four-seater. Theoretically, it should be starting out production in 2025. Though with small manufacturers like this, it's tough to tell what's real and what's not.
Yeah, interesting. The car, the lines of this thing look phenomenal. It actually looks like kind of like how an EV, like a Lucid Air on steroids.
It's a lot of glass for gull-wing doors. I didn't realize that when I first saw this, that would be gull-wing. That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's definitely big swoopy lines, huge tires, huge, like real low profile. I didn't know Ital Design did the design work. That makes sense. They've done some other crazy stuff. I think they did like the Renault Alpine and some other stuff and like supercar like way back in the day. But this thing looks killer. I don't see it when you look at it. I don't see like, oh, that's from the DeLorean lineage. And I think there's a reason why. And it's this has come up. Do you follow John DeLorean's daughter on Instagram?
No. As a matter of fact, I just saw your notes. I'm like, I didn't put these notes in here.
Yeah. Well,
Cat? Is it Catherine?
It is Catherine. The fun part is
she catty?
Somehow, a little bit. Somehow I found her social media a couple years ago. And
is it private? Did she let you in?
No, she did. It's cool. She's got a couple, but it was mostly pictures of like her dad, John DeLorean, from like back in the 60s and stuff with him working at Pontiac. And it was pretty cool.
White powder.
But then it morphs into this whole like, oh, by the way, the new DeLorean that's come out is not part of my family. It's not a sanctioned DeLorean product, blah, 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 blah.
But somebody probably sold his name a long time ago, and she probably has no control of it, right?
That's exactly what happened.
Okay.
And so she's very vocal and adamant that like this is not associated with us. But the reason that she kind of has been dumping on us because a guy who, by the name of Stephen Wynn, actually was from Liverpool, England, came here to the U.S. and started specializing in leftover DeLoreans and parts, and then kind of started building a big name for himself supplying parts for the people restoring them. The original DMC-12s.
Which we have people here in Peoria even driving them around.
Oh, yeah. So he somehow was able to legally acquire the rights to the DeLorean brand, the name, and then, boop, I'm part of DeLorean now, and guess what? I'm the CEO. I run this now. So that's kind of where this is going. He's not the CEO anymore. It's another guy named Joos de Vries, and he's basically working with some people who came from do you remember the Karma? There's another EV company.
Kinda.
Yeah, it's not to be confused with the Fisker Karma.
Or
which is
Credit Karma?
Credit Karma or freecreditreport.com. Yeah. Just a lot of webs in this one. So that's where I think they're saying, oh, small manufacturers, we don't know if this is going to become reality or when. There's also some like administrative and legal weirdness with this. That said, I think it's a cool car. I love the name. I love the throwback, the gull-wing, you name it. I would love to have something like this.
So,
if I was rich.
Do you think the DeLorean name still has provenance? Do you think there's a certain generation of car nerd that's phasing out, that people that my son's age, that DeLorean means nothing? Do you think that old gull-wing car still carries some weight with the name? I do, only because of the pop culture stuff and the like a couple years ago. I hear what you're saying. Mm-hmm. You hear me? I'm knocking. Can you hear me knocking? No, a couple years ago, Nike released a shoe called the Air DeLorean Dunk. Do you remember those? No. Okay, so gull-wing shoes. They were silver, like a silver shell, and on the bottom, the treads looked like DeLorean taillights. Okay. And I thought, oh, those look cool. And the day they went on sale, they sold out in like 20 minutes. But shoe nerds are a whole different thing. There's like a whole crowd of people who buy shoes. I guess. Yeah. I guess. If you want to buy one of those pair right now, they're on the used market. They're a $1,000 shoe. Yeah. It's ridiculous. I'm like, is that just because they look like the car from Back to the Future, or DeLorean people like them, or I don't know what. They went nuts for that.
you go to a car show and somebody's got a DeLorean, it's probably got the biggest group of people, huddled around it just because it's still weird.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do think there's some brand equity in the name for sure, but then I also think like this is the way that it's going to carry into the future, because like you said, if in 10 years it's just, oh, here's a DeLorean, it's kind of like, oh, that's an AMC Gremlin. They don't make them anymore. Yeah. That's neat, and they walk on. If they're able to carry this forward and it still becomes like this, Halo supercar for the nouveau riche. Mm-hmm. Maybe that'll be a good thing.
So, I mean, DeLorean could become synonymous at some point, but I don't know that it's there. I mean,
well, look at the Bugatti.
Yeah,
Bugatti was a race car in the 30s that people, oh, it's a fast car. Oh, it's neat.
True. I hadn't heard. I mean, until Top Gear started playing around with them, and the Veyron came out.
Yeah,
probably 10 or 15 years ago, and all of a sudden, Bugatti's like,
exactly
godlike.
Exactly. And the weird part about that is they rebooted, and somebody bought the rights to the name. Whatever. I think Volkswagen owns them now.
Yeah.
But like. In the 90s, they tried doing one called the EB110, which was like this, and they kept it blue like the other ones. There's all this, they kind of started to ramp up before they became big. The Veyron was the one that everybody was like, oh, it's got like 16 cylinders and it's 1,000 horse, or whatever it was. Crazy. And then started getting really, really well known again. And then all the rich people were like, yes, I would like this $1 million supercar. But they tried rebooting, and they got a slow start. And I think that started back in the 90s when somebody bought the rights and rebooted. So, yeah, if you Google EB110 Bugatti, if anyone remembers that car was hideous. It was disgusting. And not like the Bugattis today, which they've got something out now that's, what, like $2 billion?
Bugatti?
Yeah, it's like...
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't make my supercar this week, obviously. we went Alpha to Zora.
Well, if you had to pick one of those two, which would you pick?
Probably the Vet, just because it's a gasser.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust a $150,000 car that's an EV.
Because you don't like software updates and
well,
stuff
it's
like
a one-off, too. I mean, the thing is you buy the DeLorean.
Yeah.
And that car could literally be a brick. It could be an iPhone 5, in 10 years.
Right. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Fisker Oceans.
Yeah.
Those came out, and they're like, oh, that looks kind of cool.
Dude, you can buy like a Lucid. Speaking of cheap Teslas, I think you can buy it. There was a time the Lucid, you could buy super cheap, right?
Was it cheap? I don't know. I know
because they're down. I mean, can you even get your car serviced if you buy a Fisker?
Oh, the Fiskers? I don't know. No, I think you're screwed. I think you're a complete.
Oh no,
host.
is Lucid Air?
Those are the decent ones, I think. Still,
okay.
The Fiskers, you're thinking
Sorry.
made the Ocean is the little SUV or crossover thing,
okay.
And those are going for $30K. I mean, like
but people paid $100, right?
Yeah, and there's no dealers to support. If you go on the website, and they're just like 404 not found. So, but that's to your point though. There is that big question mark where who's supporting these things after the sale?
Yeah,
and that's the thing too. If you spend this much money on a car, you want to see it. You want to be seen, and people. If you start having trouble with this thing, what's their DeLorean Alpha 5 support like? They send somebody to your, beachfront condo and flash the car right there in your penthouse.
Or is it like Canoe? And next thing you know, all those guys who were in the tech team, they've all been laid off.
Yeah, they're now working somewhere else.
Subletted to India to a call center, and there's a guy looking at an FAQ. Telling you to reboot.
What's this thing on your resume here? It says you were a lead software developer for a supercar that nobody bought. Yeah, that was me. You're hired.
Oh man, but we think about it, Daryl. I mean, we scheme and we dream about these type of things, right?
We do, because we're so wealthy on paper.
Yeah,
in our minds.
Well, I don't need to have money to go shopping, Daryl.
No,
I could be one of those guys back in the day when I was a salesman. There were guys who'd roll up onto the lot who were Caterpillar guys. I'm sorry, I'm trying to mess.
They got like a bonus check, and they're like,
well, it's vacation week, so sometimes those guys get 2 weeks off in a row. So what they do, even though they don't have money, they come out and talk to you about cars, and then they criticize you on the Japanese-made car because maybe you work at a Japanese car lot, and they tell you about all the terrible things because it's not union, blah blah, and you're like, wait a second, guys, are you going to buy a car or not?
What are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. At least when I'm doing it online, I'm not jerking anybody's chain. Or am I? Am I that guy do I ask questions about a car that I never will buy?
Are you that guy?
No, I'm not that guy.
Okay. So it doesn't hurt to look.
Yeah. I window shop.
It's window shopping.
I think we all window shop. Sometimes I sent an amazing, was it a 300 SL?
Yes.
From Muhammad.
Or no, it was a 190 SL.
190 SL.
That cream-colored one?
Yes.
Oh, that was gorgeous.
And they wanted $80,000 for that car. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
But
But it was maybe a one owner sitting in a farm somewhere in central Illinois.
it would look good in your rehabbed garage.
Yeah, it would.
It would. You just walk out there every morning, cup of coffee, and just stare at it and be like, yeah.
So I shared that with Jake, and I shared that with you, and that's Cars of the Week, folks. Cars of the Week is where we dream and we scheme. I own that car. I drove that car home. I went through the cornfields. Angela was in the passenger seat. We were loving life. We'd somehow gotten a check for $80,000 from the bank, and we handed it off and drove home. Fortunately, it was just a dream because that's what we do in Cars of the Week. We think about cars. We dream about owning them. And fortunately, I remembered I don't have an air-conditioned garage where I can keep the cats off the hood and worry about the condition issues. So I don't need that car, Daryl. I didn't buy it.
Okay.
But I
pass.
found something just as good when I was browsing the internet.
Did
this week.
you?
I did. You ever heard of Barrett Jackson?
I sure have.
Barrett Jackson sells the most amazing cars in the world, right? I mean, people tune in from around the world. People come to their auctions. They go to Scottsdale, and they will sit there for like days on end just to watch the car they want to see go through.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did, Daryl. I went to Barrett Jackson, and I found my car for Cars of the Week.
What'd you pick this time?
You might be surprised. This is a celebrity car, Daryl.
Really?
I don't normally do this.
Is it now?
This is really, I mean, if you look at my list of Cars of the Week over the years, I've done some great classics, but I've never gone for a celebrity ride. Now, there's a sale coming up. I don't know if you know this or not. But they got all these, they got the Munster coach, they got the Herbie Lovebug coming up. They got Ecto 1 coming up as well. I mean, these are all live auctions. And so this I think maybe a museum's going for even the Clampett Mobile, which I thought about the Clampett Mobile. Tattoos buggy from Fantasy Island's on there. All these great cars were on there. But what I did, Daryl, there was like 10 cars to choose from for this sale coming up. I picked the cream of the crop. I found the Bamboo Island Taxi from Gilligan's Island. What do you think about this bad boy right here?
Wow. I'm looking at a picture. This is, of course, a podcast. You can't see what I'm seeing, but I'll just say that's a blessing.
Yeah, it's got the red and white
stripe.
The upholstery has the red and white pipe stripes, that look, kind of like a beach cruiser you might see on a Carmen, the Volkswagen thing.
Is this made of bamboo?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's got a thatched roof.
Rattan canes? What is this?
Yeah.
Wicker?
It's got something like that. Anyway, how cool would it be to be cruising around Green Valley, Illinois, in a recreation of the Bamboo Island Taxi as seen on Gilligan's Island television series from 1964 to 1967 from the Dr. Stuart Berkowitz collection.
Wow.
Yeah, it's seen on Gilligan's Island, blah, blah. They don't give me much more details than that. So I think I need to go to the sale and bid on this. What do you think?
So this is actually considered a star car, right? It's a TV show prop. Do you remember seeing, in all your countless hours of watching reruns of Gilligan's Island on Nick at Night?
I don't.
Do you ever remember seeing this thing?
I don't. But I would think that star that's on the hood ornament would have caught my eye.
That was a starfish.
Okay.
Because, much like everything else that they built on Gilligan's Island, the premise was they just cobbled stuff together that they found on the island.
I just know this, Daryl. If I go to Barrett Jackson and I sit there and bid on something, people are going to spend a bunch of money on Ecto 1. They're going to spend a bunch of money on the Munster coach. Or the Deathmobile from National Lampoon's Animal House, which really caught my eye.
That thing was pretty cool.
But I think I could probably get. What we should do? Okay, this thing goes to Barrett Jackson. It goes up for sale. Now we've talked about this just a minute ago about the limited appeal because of a certain generation of viewer.
Yeah.
My son doesn't care about this other than the tiki bar factor that comes with. What would this go for? So I think it's got to be people who love Gilligan's Island, or it's somebody who drives around Sun City and thinks this would be great to be driving around with drinks in your hand. I say, sir, that this goes for $20,000.
I think this is a little low because
I think it's a car. I think it's a golf cart. It's the one thing you're not seeing on this. I did read on it. I don't think this is actually a gas.
Yeah,
car.
I'm actually looking at pictures on the Barrett Jackson website right now. It is a golf cart. It's all electric, batteries wired in sequence or series, whatever. And it says it's a tribute or like a replica of. So it's not an original one. So that maybe does take the value down a little bit. However, I know people spend, like you talk about Sun City.
Yeah.
That's, of course, a big thing. Any kind of these retirement communities where people just dump tons of money into personalizing their golf carts. 20 grand doesn't seem outrageous to me because I know what some of those cost.
That's true. I might be too low, but
So I don't know. If you rolled into a cruise night with something like this,
at first I have to get a trailer because I couldn't get it there.
you probably couldn't drive it. It goes 40 mile an hour tops. But people would be like, what in the hell is this? And they would be all over
I'd be
it.
like Gilligan's Island, man. You know, Gilligan's Island.
Would you dress like Gilligan or the skipper?
Oh, Skipper. I'm Skipper.
You're skipper?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, little buddy.
Hey, little buddy. I just slapped my head around my knee.
Alan, what was his name? Alan
Hale.
Alan Hale.
Yeah.
I,
We are peas in a pod, my friend. Jeepers crow.
he had a terrible like restaurant or cocktail bar, didn't he?
Did he?
Like that when that show ended, I think he
I don't know.
I think he actually he was a restaurateur after that. And also in real life, Alan Hale was a car guy. He had a Shelby. He had a Shelby GT350. And there's pictures of him driving around dressed as Skipper, Southern California with a Shelby Mustang.
According to Google AI, Alan Hale Jr., who played the skipper on Gilligan's Island, co-owned a restaurant called Alan Hale's Lobster Barrel in Los Angeles. You can't make this up, folks.
I thought it was the Chum Bucket, but Lobster
It's
Barrel
the
sounds
Lobster
better.
Barrel.
You imagine that?
No.
That's okay. New rules. I think you bid on this, bid it up however you need to do it. To make sure you lock this in and win it. And then start a new life as a restaurateur.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've had people tell me we should start a restaurant.
you know, I think you do pretty good. Mm-hmm. You did pretty good. It just starts with a bamboo cart.
It says it was Lobster Barrel was a small chain of restaurants in nearby cities. At the time, Hale arranged to buy into one on La Jinga Boulevard and then plastered his name and face all over it. Unless acting work kept him away, he was always there to greet people, show them their table, and pose for snapshots. At each place setting, there was a large, full-color postcard bearing a portrait of the skipper, and if you looked at all like the first-timer, he would seat you and then, without being asked, autograph a postcard to you. He also sold and sometimes gave away skipper hats like the one he was always wearing.
Without being asked, he would just give you his autograph. How awkward. How cringe would that dinner be?
Yeah, you're like, man, I'm just here for the lobster. Who are you?
So it's one dinner. Well, see.
It was open for 15 years, and then when business slumped, he shut it down and started a travel agency, which ran until his death in 1990. Would you book a tour through the man who ran the minnow aground? Ah!
That's actually hilarious.
Wow.
All right. So, new dreams. I think you've got some plans for
Just so you know, about the time the Lobster Barrel closed, Sonny Bono opened a trattoria around the corner.
well,
Sonny Bono's trattoria.
I'd go there too.
Yeah.
You know?
Anyway, so that's enough of my car.
Fantastic
Beat
choice.
it. Beat it.
This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen you pick. And
It's inspired.
there was one, the worst one prior to this was the semi that didn't run. You remember that one? It was
I could get all my cars on
It was a
it.
car hauler that didn't run. Lost all of its inspection.
I did kind of lose some respect for myself that day.
Nah, this is better. I mean, worse. This is weird. Nice pick. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I find the right button?
Maybe. That's all right.
I don't know what that is.
It's the sound of silence. So I'll pick it up from here.
Thank you,
I
Art.
actually just picked a regular car for normal people instead of a
It looks expensive.
Lobster Barrel. This one was expensive, Eric, back when it was new. But of course, the sands of the hourglass have moved through, and
It
this
looks
thing's
more
old.
expensive than when it was new.
It kind of does. So this is my pick this week is a 1998 BMW M3 Coupe, otherwise known as an E36 M3. It's kind of like towards the tail end of the classic inline six before they started putting turbos and V8s and stuff in these small cars. This is what I like to consider one of the most perfectly balanced sport coupes ever built.
Oh, do you like to call it that?
That's what I like to call it, based on my vast experience of driving one of these like 5 times. But this one is for sale right now. Carfax, I didn't know Carfax sold stuff, but they got classifieds. $38,500. This thing is actually floating around in Ohio or Pennsylvania, somewhere out east. And it is a beautiful blue color. If anyone remembers this era of M3, it was called like Estoril Blue or Estoril Blue. I don't know. Fancy blue. It's listed as a show-ready 1998 BMW M3 DINAN manual transmission. DINAN, of course, was an aftermarket tuner, sold a whole bunch of parts, and they actually were pretty well respected back in the day. I don't know if they're even still around.
I'm not familiar with the DINAN name, and I'm not, but I wasn't a BMW guy, so I've never seen this DINAN badge.
They would do all kinds of stuff like chip tune, your ECMs.
They still have an official website for performance parts.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they did exhaust, all kinds of add-ons, strut tower braces and coilover stuff like that. This thing is listed as having a $20,000 recent fresh restoration, which if you read further down, it's like, it includes a complete repaint, which is always like, ding, ding, ding. That's a little red flag. But come to find out, this car was a Texas car. So being a Texas car, probably got sun faded or the clear coat was bubbling off. Probably looked like terrible. This car looks fantastic, though. Every picture on this listing, that blue shows really well. And I think the car was probably rust-free but repainted for, cosmetic reasons. No rust, no clean Carfax. And this thing has... where is it in the listing? It's pretty low miles. Maybe I didn't put it. It was like 72,000 miles on the car, which is really nice, and it's unmolested. So this thing actually still has like the original wheels, and like the ground effects are still the stock ones, and it has not really been tore up. The sad thing, a lot of these M3s, any BMW this vintage, has been through a couple owners by now, including a couple young kids who think they're, I don't know, insert race car driver name here, and they just usually wind up trashing these cars. This thing's still in really good shape, and it is the 5-speed, so it'd be a fun little summer car or autocross car. If I did get into autocross racing, Eric,
yes,
it'd be one of these.
Interesting. The original MSRP for a 1998 BMW M3 for the coupe, would you like to guess?
43.
Wow. I'm going to let you stick with the original guess here because it's 42,640.
Oh, Price is Right. I went over.
Strong work, man.
Excellent. These things were the hot setup.
Dude, that's a ton of money for 1998.
It was. I had a friend of mine. I was just recounting with some other friends the other night via text. A friend of mine bought one of these new, and she, when I was probably 90. This was 97, so I would have been a senior in high school, freshman in college. She let me drive the thing. It had like no miles on it. And I remember she ordered Portillo's, and then she's like, "Do you want to go pick it up and get us lunch for the office?"
Portillo's is that old? I didn't know Portillo's till 10 years ago.
Yeah, up in the suburbs, they were around for a long time. So, of course, me being a gearhead, I was like, sure. And I took this thing, and I didn't beat on it. I drove it spiritedly.
You didn't drive it like a Mustang through a Taco Bell parking lot?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not. And the fun part is, I think these cars put out stock back then, 240 horse, which doesn't sound like a lot now.
But it's a much smaller car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 3 Series with that much power and the suspension. The car was just flat and perfectly balanced, and it was just fun to drive. Whereas like a Mustang or Camaro of that vintage, you could get out of hand pretty quick, and
This body seems kind of timeless. Did they hold these for like a decade? That those body lines?
I think this technically, was 94 to 98 or 9. So
really,
it's a short window, but they sold a lot of them. They sold very well.
That seems to me okay. I mean,
and the interesting thing too, I learned years later, if you got an automatic, I think it's a GM automatic. So a lot of people, they would blow these things up, and you'd be like, oh, I got this BMW. It's going to cost a fortune. You're like, no, it's like a whatever GM Trans was in it. And so you could actually piece them together pretty quickly and cheaply with the GM part. But the Trans, I think, is still theirs, the manual ones. 99 and up, I think that also, I can't remember the overlap there. I'm not very familiar with BMWs after that. I think they still kept the inline 6 up until a certain point. And then the M3's got a small, like a 4-liter V8, which of course back then, V8's better than the 6. Yeah, but they're also expensive. It was like a dual overhead cam deal, and German V8s, you know how that goes. Yep. I mean, they get a little pricey. Whereas this thing was still the old tried and true.
What year is this one again?
This is a 98.
Okay, so 1997 they came out what they call the E46 edition. That was the 4th generation of the BMW 3 Series. That generation ran until 2004, okay. And there is a distinct difference between the 2004 and that older generation. I think where I'm seeing from 1990 the E36, the 3rd gen, that body, I mean, other than the nose, it didn't look a whole lot different in a lot of ways. So I think that's probably why I'm thinking that it looks a little staid.
They're weird too. Like, even though some of the sites will say like, oh, this started here and there. Well, the production, or maybe it was like that's what it looked like in Europe. But here we kind of they did hold the line on some of the design stuff here. This is also one of the first cars that I ever saw that had traction control in it, and I actually had to like learn how to drive with it and without it.
It introduced various electronic features like satellite navigation, electronic brake force display, ASC, DSC, rain sensing wipers, LED taillights, and xenon headlights.
It was also the first car I was in where I open the door and the glass lowers. And you close it, and then, that's typical German now. But back then, I was like, "What just happened?" Oh, it does that so you don't.
So
blow
I knew
the
a
windows
guy
out.
back in like 1990, and he had his key fob. He could hit a button, and it would lower all the windows down an inch.
Classy.
That's when I lived in Miami, and I'm like, whatever. But that guy was like paying for our dinner that night, and it was like the douchiest thing. Like, what,
Yeah, like who needs this?
Yeah, exactly. He's like looking at me, and I'm like, oh fuck. I'm sorry. Sorry. Wow. Edit point. Remind me to edit. Sorry. Yeah.
There you go. Back. No, it's not a bamboo beach cruiser, but
well, I think you win this week just because you didn't have the vision, but you had a car that could make it to Cars and Coffee.
Maybe.
So if that's a criteria to win, then you got that on me, Daryl
Thanks.
Scott. Yeah.
Well, you're unique, and your choices are always they're interesting, and they're getting more interesting as you as we go on.
Because I have everything. My virtual garage, I filled it with everything I want.
Yeah.
At this point now, it's just playthings.
That works.
Yeah, I mean, if you got to round out the collection, you got to get the Tiki Cruiser from Gilligan's Island, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You could sell pina coladas out of the back or something. There's your side hustle.
I mean, I already got an ape making coffee out of.
Right?
Yeah.
You got the coffee thing covered. You could do some frozen beverages or something like that. Or sell lobsters.
Yeah.
Sell lobsters like Alan Hale.
The lobster bucket. Is that what it's
Lobster barrel. What a weird name. What a weird dude. What a weird. Just sign autographs.
I'm gonna do that at the dealership. I'm gonna get postcards and put them all over the showroom.
Unsolicited.
First time here, let me autograph it for you.
Here you go. Here's a hat like I used to wear.
I guess I probably need a TV show first before I could get that hubris to do that myself. But
I don't know.
All right. Well, with that, you've reached the end of another throwing wrenches. I'm trying to find because Daryl trusted me with a mixer.
Yeah, it's closer
There
to
it
you
is
this
right
week.
There we go.
There's our
Look, I
outro.
did it all by myself.
Good job.
I'm a big boy now.
Well, this is fun. We do have some things planned. Eric and I are, of course, always bouncing ideas for the next couple of episodes.
Yeah, let's hope that. I mean, I think I was inspired on my car because I'm hoping to get maybe a celebrity ride, maybe in a future episode here. Right?
That would be really cool because we do have celebrities here in Central Illinois, or at least ones that are like celebrities,
like celebrities,
celebrity adjacent.
Hopefully, when we're sending out our business card saying, "Hey, be on our show," they don't tune into this episode. Maybe.
I can think of a few other ones I would not want them to hear. This one, it's not too bad.
I'm actually interested to see what happens here. We talked about this is going to be a weird year, but Honda, Nissan, Mitsubishi, what is going to happen?
Yeah, the landscape's definitely changed. And, of course, the Rivian question, all the EV question. The EV stuff seems, a year ago, we're like, oh, EVs are going strong, EV everything. And people were even kind of critical, like, hey, you guys are like a really EV-heavy show now.
Yeah.
Now that's changed.
Yeah.
Oh, how the shoe is on the other
The
foot.
worm has turned, as they say, right?
That's right. Let us know what you think. You've got some good ideas for the upcoming series season. Give us a shout out at info@thrownwrenches.com. Most of the time, we just get spam there, so it's nice to actually read human emails.
Yeah, we got a lot of listeners on Spotify these days, so feel free to comment on the Spotify episode. When you have your cell phone out, just go in there, make a note, say, I think Eric's Tiki car idea is awesome, or
Best ever.
or say, Daryl climbing into that BMW 3 Series. That won't happen.
Terrible.
Yeah. But anyway, we'd love the comments, and we'll certainly read them on the next show. Thanks again for everything, folks, and we will see you next time. Bye. All right.
It's all good.
We'll ride that out.